As a coach, how can I keep my clients coming back session after session, month after month, year after year? Because let's face it, this is a deciding factor. It decides whether you have recurring revenue or not. That is exactly the topic we are going to discuss today with our guest, Richard Bernstein, the CEO and president of Masterminds Coaching. He's been in coaching for well over 20 years, and usually his clients stay with him for many, many years. We're going to find out those secrets today. But Richard, first of all, welcome to the podcast. And secondly, before we dive into that, I would love to hear from you, from your experience. Why do coaches struggle with retaining clients?
I think there's several reasons, but the foundational reason is that there's a difference in the expectation of what that client expects from coaching. Because remember, coaching by definition means different things to different people. And so part of the problem is during the sales process, they're not really focused on getting on the same page of those expectations. So that's really important that they understand what coaching really is, what they expect to get out of it. And that actually begins in the very first talk before they're even a client. Before you take them through a sales process, is they have to really understand what to expect from coaching. And I think part of it is they're going to struggle because a month into it or 2 months into it, this is not what I expected. I'm not getting the result that I wanted because I didn't really know what to expect. So I think that it all starts in the sales process, that they have to understand what coaching is, what to expect out of it. And I just think that begins right at the very beginning. So that's step one, is how you sell it dictates the expectations that are going to be out there with you as a coach and them as a client.
And how do you sell it?
Well, we actually take them through a process of them understanding what to expect. So in our sales process, we're very much setting them up. We're not selling them to buy coaching. We're turning it around to show them the vision that they actually want. And that vision is what coaching is going to move them toward. So it's very different than just sitting around in self-discovery or understand why I do this, or, it's not about that. It's about moving them from point A to point B. And they don't really know what to expect. A lot of people think it's like therapy. A lot of people think it's like marriage counseling, things like that. And it's not at all. So if they don't quite understand it, their expectations are not going to be there. And that's why they keep losing clients. They'll get one and lose one, and get two and lose one, and get a third one and lose a second one, because they're not really living up to those expectations that they sold in the very beginning. So that's step one.
Uh-huh. And let's go back a little bit. So are you saying they're not communicating the expectations that the clients can have?
They're not
Realistically,
articulating
right?
that. It's not just communication, it's how you articulate it in the beginning of what is coaching and what to expect. We
Okay.
actually take them through a process where first they get clarity. They know the first 2 or 3 weeks, that's what we're going to be working on, is really getting clarity, because most people don't know what they want. So the real role of a coach in the sales process is to bring them clarity around what they actually want. Once you have clarity, then we can craft a plan. Now I know where I am and where I want to go. We can craft a plan. And then from there on out, it's accountability to doing the strategies that we discussed in the sales process. So if you're not laying out that expectation, they don't know what to expect. And that's where misunderstandings come in. At the very beginning of my career, there were misunderstandings until I learned how to sell it properly. Once I sold it properly, then the very first session, before I even get into the clarity, is what we call positioning, where I'm literally going to position what the relationship looks like, what you can expect from me as a coach, what I expect from you as a client. That positioning is laying out all the rules. Like clients don't know, can I call you every day? Can I text you every day? What am I supposed to do in between the sessions? Things like that. They don't quite understand. So having a very clear sales process and then a real clear positioning session with them gets all the expectations out both ways.
Yeah, yeah. And do you recommend that people offer, give their clients the opportunity to call them 24/7? Do you have like a rule or recommendation there?
Yes. Yes, and that depends on the coach. They can set whatever they want. In my case, they're going to learn that if you text me in between, what should I do? Something like a question like that, I'm going to respond with, what do you think you should do? After 3 or 4 texts like that, they stop texting
Okay.
because they go, Rich is just going to ask me, what do I think I should do? And that's what I'm really trying to get them to do is teach them to think. Teach them, and most people don't know how to think. So we're teaching them really how to think, how to lay out all your options, how to lay out the pros and the cons of each option. Now, what you should do is clearly in front of you. Most people don't think that way because they make decisions based on emotion, not on facts. If you
Right.
lay out the facts, you're going to make a very different decision.
So are you saying you're actually not telling people what to do? You ask them what they think they should be doing.
Right. And what are your options? And what are the pros and the cons of each option? Now, what do you see?
Okay. So you guide them through a decision-making process.
I guide them through the thinking process.
But
Yes, the
thinking.
decision making is part of that thinking process.
Mhm.
And that is the role of a coach.
Okay. And then what's next? So we have the positioning, what you call it, right? The way you call it.
Right?
So
Laying
they
out the
setting up the
expectations,
expectations, right?
right? And then we give them a document called an alignment that aligns their head and their heart. So they really start getting clarity on what they really want.
Mhm.
Once you do that, and this is what's critical to keeping clients long term, is when you know where they are and where they want to go, you must put it on a scale, on a measurable scale. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if it's subjective to that person. Many times I'll ask a man client, how is your relationship? And he'll say, oh, it's a 6. And I'll ask the wife and she'll say, oh, it's a 4 or a 3. So it doesn't matter. I can have 2 different answers, but
Yeah.
now I know if one is a 4 and the other, the goal is to get to a 10, the gap there is 6, right? And if I take that 6 and I want to get them there in 12 weeks, because we always create a 90-day plan, then they need to move 0.5 on that scale every single week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's critical because I don't want them to just feel like the relationship's getting better. I want them to see that it's getting better. You were a 4, now 7 weeks later, you're a 6.5. They can
Mhm.
see that progress. That is the key. It's not just feeling better because, in fact, some of them are going to take a step back. They're going to go to a 5 and then a 6 and then back to a 5. And so growth doesn't happen linearly. It happens kind of, it spikes and then it'll plateau and then it'll spike a little bit. It might drop down. So it's very important that we're actually measuring that progress and they can see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, not just feel it, but actually
Mhm.
see it with their eyes. That is one of the major keeping things on track is every single week you're measuring.
Right. And you mentioned something before. You said men and women. So when you have couples, the man is on a scale of 6. The woman, his partner is on a scale of 4. Do you also notice different behavior in terms of how quickly they get to the goals, how men and women function differently, listen differently? Do you
100%.
coach them differently? Do you
Yes.
guide them in a
Yes, we do. And that's one of our unique selling proposition is we focus on gender intelligence. So we coach a man linearly because men typically are on the left side of the brain, that analytical side. And so what are they doing? Step 1, I'm at a 4. Step 2, what can I do to get to a 5? What can I do to get to a 6? So they're very linear thinkers and we coach them that way.
Uh-huh.
What's interesting is with women, everything is connected to everything else because the way their brain is wired. And in that, we want to coach them where everything is connected to everything else. So if I'm going to improve the relationship, it improves your health. If I'm improving the health, it improves your parenting skills. If you improve that, everything is connected. So we want to move it in a very fractal way, not linear way where everything is improving at the same time. That takes a little bit longer, a little more patience with a woman, a little more bigger picture approach. And this is something that we teach even in the measuring part. So we're going to be measuring everything against everything with a woman. With a man, it's just linear. What's the one thing I could do to move my relationship 0.5 this week?
Interesting. And do you find men get quicker to their goals than women, or women get finish their goals quicker than men?
Well, it's interesting you say that because First of all, I never use the word goal with a woman. They do
Mhm.
not like that word. It kind of restricts them, it boxes them in, and now they got that pressure of that linear thinking. I got to get there. So when you connect it to everything else and you kind of look at how they approach things, then I'm not coaching them to results. I'm coaching them just to move on that scale. I'm
Mhm.
coaching them to strategies to move on that scale. And that scale is connected to everything else in their life. So
Yeah.
most people don't realize they try to coach clients to results. We do not do that here at Mars Venus. We
Mhm.
actually focus on just coaching them to strategies. You do this strategy, let's see the result. You do this strategy, let's see the result. People want progress, not necessarily results. That's what we focus on is progress because
Mhm.
life is progress. And that's what people want to see. And that's why that measuring works so well is they actually see the progress, not the result. If you're a
Mhm.
good coach, don't worry about results. Focus on progress.
I guess the results will come. If you progress, the result will arrive, will
Every
come by
time.
itself, right?
Yes, sir. Every
Mhm.
time.
Okay, okay. Now, Rich, you also coach business
Yes.
owners, coach corporate CEOs, CFOs. Do you find differences in life, business, and corporate coaching in the way you retain your clients?
The measuring is the same because we want to measure matrix, but I will tell you something. Business coaching is actually easier than life coaching because life coaching, it's subjective. Everything in business typically is measurable. How many leads are coming in? What's your conversion rate? What's your average dollar? What's your number of transactions a month? Things like that are very tangibly easy to measure. In a
Mhm.
relationship, like I said, it typically doesn't go like this, where one day I'm feeling good about my relationship and tomorrow I'm not. So it's a little bit harder to do the life coaching part, although you can as long as you put it on a scale, but business is much easier. But I also find a big difference in business and executive coaching when it's a woman because typically businesses are linear in their thinking. Corporate executive is very task oriented, very goal oriented. So, in doing that, women tend to be more on their masculine energy when they're in those kind of roles. So, if I'm coaching a CEO or CFO that's a woman, it's going to be a very different approach of how to get her to balance back into her feminine energy when she gets home.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yes, there's a big difference in business and executive with men and women.
Do you find that women struggle with that masculine
Of
energy
course they do.
in
Yes.
the
It's
business
not natural to
in the
them.
corporate world?
Yes. It's not natural feeling to them. And the biggest problem is their relationships and their parenting is going to suffer because they're coming home in that masculine energy. So
Mm.
they're focused on that. And guess what? When a woman is in her masculine, it pushes her partner into his feminine because that's the yin and the yang between men and women. So if my wife is in her masculine energy, it pushes me into my feminine energy. And then both of us are not comfortable. Both of us are out of our energy, our comfort zone, and that affects the relationship.
Interesting.
So I'm coaching a lot of women around that, slowing down, being more in your feminine energy. You can bring some of that into the corporate role and be a nurturing CEO, not
Mm.
necessarily a taskmaster.
But do you find you get a lot of resistance from women because they don't want to give up that power, maybe? They think.
Sometimes, but if they hired me, they're looking for something. And when I
Mm.
pinpoint it that it's your masculine energy at work, yes, then they become very cooperative. Some of them are resistant in the beginning because they're like, I don't quite understand. This is why I'm successful because I'm operating it like a man. I want to show them that they can operate it like a woman and still be successful, still stay in that feminine energy.
What changes when they go into the feminine energy in their leadership position?
They're more of a nurturing leader. They're more of a supportive leader. They're more of a understanding leader. For example, if I have a woman that actually says to a guy that's not hitting his numbers or not performing, "Are you okay? How are you doing? What can I do to help you with the resources?" As opposed to, if you don't hit your numbers next quarter, you're out. Well, that doesn't inspire anybody, but that's what a lot of men do because that's very masculine energy.
Yeah.
Women can be much more understanding and nurturing. Is something going on at home? Are you not feeling well? What resources, what support can I give you to achieve that?
Hmm. Hmm. No,
Women can be amazing leaders in corporate and business.
mhm. because of that nurturing side, because
If they tap into it, if they try to do it from their masculine side, it's going to be a very different approach.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay, we got a bit sidelined there, but let's go back to the retention or retaining clients. So we had positioning, we had measuring. Is there anything else?
Yes, one very important thing is I end every single session with this one question.
Mhm.
What value did you get today from today's session? What value did you get? What did you learn about yourself? Or what are you going to incorporate this week that you now see things with a different light? That value question keeps them long term as well, because they keep saying to themselves out loud to you, so they hear themselves say it, that I got this value. I learned this about myself. A lot of coaches are hesitant to ask that question because they believe I'm looking for kudos. I'm looking for you to tell me I'm a great coach. You
Yeah.
can't come from that approach. You have to come from, I want you to learn from hearing yourself what value you got. Reflect on the session itself and tell me what was the most valuable part. Because when they do that, then I can focus in on that value week after week after week. And when
Mhm.
they say it out loud, they're not going to go through the first 12-week cycle and then go, well, I didn't get any value.
Yeah.
Because they told you 12 times every session for the last 3 months how much value they got and what it was about. So I learn a lot from my clients looking at the value they got.
Mhm. I love that question. And why do you said coaches don't tend to ask that question because they are afraid of,
Two, there are
yeah.
two things. They're, number one, they're afraid the client might say, well, I didn't get any value today.
Mhm.
That's
What do you do then? What do you do when that happens?
what could I have done today? What could we have talked about that would have brought you value today?
Mhm.
And I learned from their answer. So to me, these are the kind of, they're so afraid to ask that question, or they're going to take that question as, I'm looking for, oh, Rich, you're an amazing coach. That is not what I'm looking for, and that's not the direction I'm going. So those two things make a coach a little hesitant. At Mars Venus, we teach our coaches to do it. And if
Mhm.
they happen to say, well, I didn't get any value today, what could I have done? Or what could we have talked about that would have brought you value today? And then I listen carefully to that answer.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to give them in the next session.
Mhm. 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 Very cool. What else?
I think taking them through the sales process and
Yeah.
getting expectations out on the table
Yeah.
is number one. They have to be positioned because, again, I got to repeat, coaching means different things to different people. I want to make sure that they understand it means what it means to me so
Mhm.
that they know what to expect they're going to get. That's one. Two, as soon as they sign up as a client, we do the positioning. So that positioning PowerPoint, I want them to set the rules. I want them to know what to expect from me. I want to avoid any misunderstandings. That's critical. Not to
Mhm.
mention, I can refer back to that positioning if things start, if they're texting too much or calling or, you know what I mean? Rich, you got to tell me what to do. I was very clear in the positioning. I don't tell you what to do. I'm going to show you how to think. So I can refer back to that often. The third thing, and this is the number one, is the measuring. They have to see the
Mhm.
improvement every week, not just feel it. And if they actually see that improvement, they start being proud of themselves. I have some files of clients 7, 8, 9 years that I could open up their file is this thick and tell you what we were working on 3.5 years ago, what the goals were, what the measurement was, what was the strategy they did, and where do they move on the scale. So they actually see the improvement. And I
Yeah.
refer back to that a lot. Can you believe you were a 4 2 months ago and now you're a 7.5? This is amazing. And then finally, that value question. What value
Mhm.
did you get? If you follow those 4 steps, I'm telling you, you will keep clients minimum a year or two. Minimum.
Beautiful. Because in essence, people want to grow, right? I mean, if they've taken the first step to get coached, to be coached, then they want to grow. And if they see you help them growing, they want to keep growing.
Yes. And it really
Mhm.
hurts the industry when these, new coaches, not Mars Venus, but coaches call themselves a coach. They get out there, they coach 3, 4 sessions, and the client doesn't get what they expected, and they're done. And then in their head, coaching doesn't work. That really hurts the industry. That's what we are very methodical in how we teach our coaches, how to give them the real value that that client wants, how to set the expectations, how to
Yeah,
do the positioning, how to measure the whole time and ask the value question.
yeah, yeah. Excellent. Beautiful. Now, Rich, just before we finish, a parting advice to a new coach who's just starting off, who's been struggling with retaining clients. What can you tell? What's one thing they can do immediately that will change the way they retain their clients?
But I would say probably practice how you position what coaching is. Do you know what I mean? That's so important of how you articulate what coaching is, not your passion for it. I know everybody's passionate about helping people, but passion does not dictate your success. The way in which you articulate what it is does. So
Yeah.
that's the advice. Understand what coaching is and articulate it that way very clearly. At Mars Venus, our articulation that we teach is clarity, planning, and accountability. Those three words. And it can't be fluffy. Oh, we're going to help you with your dreams and your goals. And I'm going to cheerlead you. And I'm going to make you feel good and inspire you. We're going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. No. We want to be very clear at Mars Venus. What is coaching? First, we bring you clarity, then we craft a plan, and then we hold you accountable to implementing that plan so that you move on that scale toward whatever you want in life.
Yeah,
That's the advice.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very straightforward. It's about methodology. It's about being consistent, and then the success will come.
That's right. Just like progress
Yeah.
with the client.
Yeah.
You just move them through progress and the results will come.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Richard, for this conversation. And for you who's been watching, if you got value out of this, support us, press the subscribe button. Check out the description below. You'll find some links to our website and to if you're interested to schedule a call, a free clarity call, click the button, click the link, set a time, and we are more than happy to have the conversation with you, give you clarity, and tell you a little bit about how you can retain your clients for the long term. We will have these topics on a regular basis, so make sure you're logging in again, checking out the videos, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, bye.